Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for those of you joining us from a little bit further afield. A very warm welcome to today's Health Tech webinar. My name is Sarah Noonan. I'm Marketing Director here at Supercharge, and I'm honoured to be your host for today's session, coming to you live from London. As your host, I'm thrilled to be exploring the evolving tech landscape where data and cutting-edge AI technology converge, reshaping the future of healthcare for patients. Today, we will be delving into the pivotal role of software in the development of new medical and health devices with our fantastic lineup of speakers. From anesthesiologists to doctors and chemists turned entrepreneurs, we have a vast breadth of experience, which you will hear from a little bit later today. Before we start, I just want to give you a quick breakdown of today's event and what will happen. So it'll be broken into two parts. We will have presentations initially, followed by a panel discussion. We've had a slight update to our agenda. Unfortunately, Petra Ola, our innovation consultant, is ill, so Balazs Fonagy, our chief strategist, will be presenting instead. So with that, firstly, you will hear from Balazs, who will focus his presentation on how software-driven medical devices are shaping the future of healthcare, and also the challenges and pitfalls in developing an impactful digital product. Then we will hear from Piet Hein van Dam, who is the CEO of Clear. Piet Hein will talk us through a use case around data and patient empowerment. Clear is on an amazing journey to reverse type 2 diabetes with a focus on preventing lifelong medications. And then in the second part of our event today, we will have our panel discussion. So we would like to make this session as interactive as possible. So please do use the Q&A functionality in the bottom of your screen and get your questions in. Any questions that we don't get to today, we will be sure to follow up after the event. So with that, I'm going to pass you on now to Balazs Fonagy for our first presentation. Balazs, over to you.
Hi everyone, I will just share my presentation. Give me one single second. Okay, I hope it works as intended. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining today. I'm Balazs Fonagy, the Chief Strategist of Supercharge. So I've been leading the product design division of Supercharge for almost, well, I guess a decade now. In this role, I have overseen in some capacity or another the creation of over 100 digital products. I'm not telling that to boast. I'm telling that because when I think back on all these projects, I can very confidently say that none of our clients had a harder time creating significant impact with their products than those who innovate in the healthcare industry. Now, I was talking to our panelists last week, and it was Piet Hein, our next presenter, who pointed out this very simple truth. It's extremely hard to build a successful startup in the health tech space. Now, this realization, I guess, for me, is especially striking given the amazing opportunities that stand before healthcare to entirely reinvent itself in a new digital era. Actually, this was the conversation that inspired me to dedicate this presentation to one single aspect of this really multifaceted question. Why is it so hard to deliver impactful health device experiences? Why are we still not living in some health tech utopia where our well-being is secured by dozens of intelligent devices, information going back to our doctors, video chatting constantly with them? This is just not how healthcare feels today. So I thought I would look into the reasons based on my experiences in the industry. Let's start with my premises. First of all, I would like to say that I'm 100% convinced that we are at the cusp of a sweeping digital healthcare revolution. This is a revolution that will radically change how patients experience healthcare. The changes will include how convenient healthcare will feel, how much ownership it will give to patients over their own health and health data and their own well-being, how data-driven and real-time healthcare will be, and also how it will shift from physical to digital, and even more likely to kind of hybrid processes. Now, I would like to prove my point because I don't have a crystal ball, but I think after we go through a few factors, we will see how much this revolution is inevitable. Let's start with the human factor. I think we can say that right now healthcare innovation has an amazing momentum. Talent is pouring in from two directions. One direction, I would say, are the technologists. The techies all around the world, in Silicon Valley, and of course in all the other countries, and tech centers. And I feel that they kind of got bored with the internet, and they decided that healthcare is this new exciting frontier where they should invest their time and efforts. And I don't think it's just because health can be a very good long-term business. I think it's more likely that this happens because health truly matters. It has actual significance for people. Let's be honest, from the perspective of an innovator, it feels way more meaningful to create a solution that, let's say, treats diabetes without lifelong medications than to develop an app which helps you, let's say, find a dog walker for your puppy. The latter can be a great business, but it just doesn't have the same meaningfulness. Now, the other source is from within the industry. As techies got excited about health, healthcare experts got excited about technology. And if you think about it, it isn't hard to see why. Digitalization rapidly changes the life of these experts, like everything is changing around them. They experience how transformative technology can be. And of course, at the same time, connected devices, data processes, the whole AI machine learning revolution that's happening, it just opens up amazing opportunities for better outcomes. It will be very hard to ignore the promise of like all these new way better outcomes than what was achievable previously. So we have all this talent pouring into the health tech space. Now, at the same time, there is also the tech factor. We have clearly entered an era where we kind of exist in a hybrid state, how I like to call it. We talk a lot about hybrid work, and there are articles coming out about it every day. But in fact, I think that we are living like a kind of a hybrid life. We might spend more time at this point in the digital world than in the physical one. Let's just think about that for a moment. We can also feel that the boundaries are slowly disappearing. We kind of fluidly move between the two worlds. Like my personal experience is that I get out of a Zoom call, grab a coffee in the kitchen, and then I, slip back into another Zoom call. It's digital, physical, digital, and this is how my whole day looks like. I'm pretty sure that yours is not very different. And the next factor, let's look at all the connected devices which are proliferating. Basically, these devices are our way, like humanity's way, to bridge the gap between the physical and the digital world. So if you look at the devices, what do they really do? So many of the devices collect some kind of health or environmental data. Basically, they act as the senses of the computers. They are the ears and the eyes of the machines in a way. Now, they also act as an interface. We humans, we are physical beings. We need interfaces to experience the digital world, to communicate with it. And the third is maybe the most exciting. They can increasingly affect our body or the environment. A good example of that is the Amber Wave. Sam is one of our panelists. His product is actually capable of cooling the nerve endings in your wrist to change your entire temperature perception. Basically, what we do here is that we transform digital intention into physical effect. I think this will be a rapidly advancing area for these devices. So if we zoom out, we already have full-time and real-time access to information and guidance coming from the digital world through all our devices. Now, as the number of sensors and data capture points increases, computers will also have full-time and real-time access to all of our biological and contextual data. So this will be like a two-way, real-time, holistic understanding between humans and computers. This brings us to my last point, the crazy speed of innovation in data processing. The amount of data created by humanity increases by like 30 to 50% yearly. And actually the healthcare industry has one of the fastest data growth rates among all industries. Now, originally, I was looking up some numbers. I wanted to add some numbers to this presentation. That numbers always make everything look more credible, but I realized that it doesn't really make any practical sense. The numbers I found, those numbers are incomprehensibly large for me, measured in zettabytes. They are just not really meaningful for the human mind anymore. Also, the human brain can't really do anything with this much unstructured data. So if it were just for us humans, it wouldn't be very useful. But actually, our brain doesn't really need to do anything with it. That's why we have faster and faster computers. And we are seeing amazing breakthroughs in data processing. This is like an ongoing AI revolution that can really plug into all these endless data streams and open up previously unimaginable levels of analytical and interpretation capabilities. And, this is the scary topic. If we decide to give that kind of power to the machines, even new levels of decision-making capabilities. Now, I think you don't really need a crystal ball to see that all these trends of the human talent flowing in, the technical progress happening, the devices proliferating, all these trends are converging right now, and they together will cause a seismic shift. So when I'm saying there is a healthcare revolution happening, this is what I mean by that. Now, I assume that you came to this webinar because you mostly agree with my assessment about this inevitability of this revolution. And I didn't even touch on the demand side of it, the unmanageable healthcare costs, aging population, and the rest. That's not really in my wheelhouse, so I wanted to steer clear of that. But honestly, in everyday life, it doesn't really feel like a revolution is happening. As a patient, as a customer, I don't really experience it in my life. So the change certainly doesn't feel like the picture on the left. It feels like the gigantic cargo ship on the right trying to slowly turn and change direction. I would like to illustrate it with a little anecdote or story. I currently live in New York, so we can't really say that the following example is from some backwater town. Last week, after long procrastination, I decided to go to the city's leading hospital and meet with one of the country's leading lipidologist professors. My goal was to finally figure out what to do about my sky high cholesterol levels. So I entered this very, very modern hospital, and I went through this journey. And there were certainly subtle signs that told me that I'm not in the 90s, but honestly, not too many. The journey felt the very same. I would say that the most high-tech aspect of the visit was the fact that they sent my prescription to the pharmacy through an online system, and I got an SMS reminder about it. Now, I think it's very telling about the typical healthcare experience that I was pretty amazed by getting that little text message. But actually, I still needed to walk to the pharmacy, stand in line, and purchase my pills in person, how I did it 20 years ago. This is not a horror story. Look, I received excellent care. The facilities look great. I was given clear guidance on what to do about my cholesterol, but it certainly didn't feel like I was right in the midst of a revolution. No one prescribed any exciting devices for me. No one suggested me apps to help my treatment. And actually told me that I will get a good old phone call when I should go back to check the effectiveness of the pills. If they want to go very high tech, maybe they will end up sending me an email or even a text message. but probably that will be the end of the journey. So really, nothing revolutionary. This all could have happened 20 years ago. If I enter Crunchbase, you probably know it. This is the world's largest startup library, and it feels like everyone is working on a health device. So if I filter for companies working on health devices, I really get an endless list of them. So why does healthcare still feel the same? As an average person, why don't I feel the revolution? Obviously, I know that many of the causes are systematic or regulatory. The stakes in healthcare are just too high for a quick change. But I'm a product designer, so I will look at the experience side of the things. So let's see what are the biggest experience gaps today that stop us from feeling the transformative power of all these shiny new health devices coming out. First of all, today smart devices almost always exist in some kind of data isolation. The smartwatch that measures my daily activity doesn't communicate with the app that guides my diet. The same smartwatch also doesn't interact with my smart bulb, which is installed in my bedroom. The smartwatch knows when I'm sleeping, when my sleep cycle is at an optimal moment. It could tell the light bulbs to start lighting up the room, and it could help me wake up easier, but this would need necessitated for the two devices to start talking to each other. These are just some simple examples, but I think it shows my point. There is still a lack of frictionless journeys that just easily fit into my life. It's still very rare that we can walk through, just a seamless digital journey and get the outcome we wanted, in a very effortless way. For example, Apple Health offers a solution to track my medications. That journey, I just tried it last week. It was broken in multiple places. I scanned the box of my cholesterol pill, and then it couldn't find it in its database. I needed to add it manually. At that point, actually, I almost abandoned the journey, but I persevered and I ended up adding it. Now, I have a hard time remembering to take my pill, and I try to rely on the app to remind me. And it sends me a notification every day at 9 a.m. Now, what happens is that if I'm not in the kitchen where I keep my pills, I ignore it. If it would sense when I enter the kitchen and send me the notification, then I would almost definitely take my pill. At some point, I make my way to the kitchen every morning. It will just need to know when is that. Well, that's not how it happens, so it doesn't help too much with my adherence. And this last point of mine, I think, is the hardest to explain. It feels like there is a disconnect between most doctors and modern patients who want to be an active manager of their own health. Like, imagine the situation when a patient walks into a doctor's office and starts to show them, let's say, their heart rate data that they just obtained from their smart ring. Or imagine the very same doctor suggesting to the patient to get a ring like that as an kind of an extra data collection point. Of course, not instead of the serious medical devices in their office, just, to augment the data collection. Honestly, these are currently almost non-existent scenarios, and that's very stressful for the users who would like to leverage these solutions. Without spending too much time here, I wanted to show you this initiative that's coming from Amazon. Amazon is not very famous about creating extremely elegant and simple solutions. They are famous about their business results, not really about their product development practice. But still, they managed to sell 100 million Alexa-powered smart speakers and other smart devices. Now, the issue is that most people only use these devices to ask Spotify to play music, count down when you cook pasta, and tell you the weather before you leave the house. Why is that? Well, because it needs tinkering, learning, and experimenting to make anything more complex than that work. It needs effort. And that's exactly the things that users don't want to do. So it seems like Amazon has realized this problem and started to work on solving it. They invented a new label which they call certified for humans. They promise that anything that's certified for humans is struggle-free, tinker-free, and stress-free. You just plug them in, they connect to your Alexa system, and they just automatically start to work. Actually, I purchased an Echo Glow, a smart lamp, to have my daughter's sleep training, and it's a device that's certified for humans by Amazon, and actually it works as advertised. So it seems like this wasn't all just marketing BS. So why am I telling this? Because I think the healthcare industry needs to start working on devices that are also certified for humans. Basically, what does it mean? It means that these devices automatically cooperate with the rest of my digital ecosystem. They just work. There is absolutely no effort needed from the user side. It provides a personalized journey that fits into my everyday life. So look at the Apple Health example. It should send the notifications when I enter the kitchen, not at a random time, which is totally irrelevant for me. And my doctor should understand these devices, understand the data they can produce, and they should be happy to make it part of my treatment or diagnosis journey or prevention journey. Otherwise, I will feel pretty stressful about using them. Now, I'm not naive. I'm actually a pretty practical guy. So I know that giving you that list, I'm giving you a list that are, goals that are currently not fully achievable for most health products. I know that there are many reasons for that. Missing ecosystem pieces, regulatory roadblocks, wrong system level incentives, very slowly changing habits on both the patient and the practitioner sides. So I know all that. That's why I wanted to leave you at the end of my presentation with 3 very practical advice that takes into account that list, the certified for humans health device list. First of all, do map out how a product would work that can actually tick all the 4 elements of that list. Acknowledge that you can almost certainly can build that today, but know the ideal state, which will give you a long-term vision that you can work towards. And don't forget about that's what your customer dreams of, a product that can fulfill those 4 points. Try to create a product that just works, a product that, stays in the background, stay invisible. Customers dream about products which provide their positive effects by staying invisible as possible, just enhancing their well-being without complicating their life. You might care about engagement metrics and you want to prove, the stickiness of your product. Customers and patients have very different goals. And my last point is pay very close attention to the aggregators and hubs. These are the solutions that will eventually help us connect the data of multiple devices, like Apple Health. I truly believe that the real magic can be unleashed when you tap into the user's aggregated data. So whenever that will be possible, that will be the moment of breakthrough. With that, I would like to thank you so much for your attention. I hope you found something interesting in my presentation. Now I will hand over the virtual mic to Piet, Hein, who is in the actual trenches of healthcare innovation as an entrepreneur, and he's trying to change how we treat type 2 diabetes in a very exciting way.
Thank you very much, Balazs. Can you hear me? I hope so. Sarah, I need some instructions. How much time do I have? And could you please ping me when I have 1 minute left? I also need permission to start my screen sharing, which I now have. And I think you can see my screen. All right. Thank you for joining today. It's an honor to share with you the journey I've been in over the last 4 years. I am a data entrepreneur. I have a PhD in chemistry and physics, and I started my career a long time ago at Unilever. The last 15 years, I've been in data startups in several industries. Let's start with easy industries. And now I think we're in the more difficult industries, as Balazs already told us. These industries are very complex, but every industry is about to digitalize and personalize. So why not healthcare? Right, I founded a company. I think I should share my screen again. I am screen sharing, right? I founded a company called Clear.bio. That's easy because that's also the website, Clear.bio. We make your biology clear. We are treating diabetes 2 patients. Actually, they're treating themselves by precision nutrition. So that's a bit more than personalized nutrition. It's actually measuring in your body, your biology, and the way you react to foods. We do that with a technology called real-time glucometry, and I will tell you a bit more in this presentation. First, I want to tell you where it all started. I'm fascinated by longevity. In science, we know what to do. We know the interventions that we need to do to make people more than 100 years old. At the same time, the average life expectancy in the US is decreasing. That's interesting, right? So when we talk about one subject on lab scale, we know what to do. But when we talk about 350 million people, something happens. And we all know what happens, and that's the famous Coke. A Coke is cheaper than a bottle of water. Our unhealth is a business model for many, many people. And that is what drives me. I think that we as a community of scientists, of nerds, of entrepreneurs, that we generate a lot of beautiful technologies, but they are currently mainly exploited by big multinationals. Spotify tells you what to listen to, Netflix tells you what to watch, and nobody tells you what to eat. Clear is turning that around. Diabetes 2 is what happens to people when they eat the wrong things. And the wrong things are mostly the things that spike your blood sugar level. If you do that year after year, day after day, you develop an insulin resistance, which is called diabetes 2. So it's lifestyle related. You get it because of your lifestyle. What happens worldwide? We give you medication. So instead of working on your lifestyle, you get metformin. Metformin is an invention that is a century old. So over the last 100 years, nothing really happened. 70% of the patients get metformin. This is the start of a lifelong medication journey. This happened to a very famous Dutchman. You may recognize him. His name is Raymond van Barneveld, also known as Barney, 5 times world champion darts. He got diagnosed diabetes 2 a long time ago. He did exactly what his doctor told him to do. He took the meds. He lost his feeling in his fingers. He lost his the quality of his eyesight, so he had to stop his career as a darter. He quit, and 2 years ago, his manager came to us and he said, could you perhaps help him? So we started to work with Barney and we got him back on track. And last Christmas, he competed again in his world championships. So this is the effect of treating somebody, not with metformin and all the side effects, but with precision nutrition. What you got to understand, this is a bit of science, but I'm sure you can handle this. What you got to understand is the following scientific fact is that your reaction to food is personal. There's not one good diet for everybody. Of course, you can prescribe general diets, but they have a success rate of 30%. And the chances that you are in this 30% are rather low. There's more chance that you are in the other 70%. So how does that work? That works as the following. Let's say the guy in this picture eats a banana and he spikes a lot. So his blood sugar level reacts very strongly to what he just took. That is something you shouldn't do. You should avoid. I'm from the Netherlands. You should have a diet as flat as a boulder. And that's not because I'm from the Netherlands, but that's just because that's something that sticks to you. But it's also because this is the scientific fact. So you better eat things that don't spike you too much. And again, that differs from person to person. Your DNA, your lifestyle, but mostly your microbiome is so different. There are more cells in your microbiome than in your brain. So that's so different from person to person that you have to figure it out from person to person. For me, a sushi could be good. For you, it could be bad. So we have to figure it out from person to person. And that's exactly what we do. Our concept is a combination of a real-time sensor. It's a well-known sensor. It's a Freestyle Libre from Abbott that has been developed to help patients to administer insulin, medication. We thought, well, the peak that actually comes from something. So let's calculate where it comes from. It comes from your food. There is a smart app that calculates if that food is actually good for you or not, depending on the blood sugar level, of course. And there's human interaction as well. There's this dietitian that helps you to improve your lifestyle. Of course, there's a big portal for caregivers as well. The main features of the app, I'm going to show them shortly to you. Then you have a kind of a grip of what we're offering is, of course, the glucose data. We get the glucose data in, so you have a continuous view on your blood sugar level. We can work with any device. We work with the Freestyle Libre now. We're discussing software and hardware later. If there are smartwatches that can measure blood sugar, we will take them immediately. Anyway, that's feature number one. The other thing we ingest is what you eat. You don't have to do it all the time. You just have to do it for the first 2 weeks of our treatment. You log what you eat. It's very easy with either a pre-populated search list. We are working with, let's say, audio to text functionalities. We have barcode scanners. But that's the thing you need to do. Within an hour or two after your meal logging, you already know if that was good for you or not. So there's a sort of a microtransaction and a sort of gamification. I eat something, is it good or not? That's what's called a food score. So 100 is a great food score. A 1 is not a great food score. And in this case, you see a certain soup with an egg and it scored 65. Well, that's not too good. So we would not recommend that to take that every day. We optimize it with you. So this is where our dietitians comes in. And later when it's certified, also our AI comes in. And then we help you to choose the right food or food combination. There's a real dietitian. That's the one that guides you from A to B. And finally, we got this treatment reimbursed in the Netherlands as an alternative for medication. I think that's a very strong feature. You can just do that at home. That's one of the things within healthcare, I think, that helps most differentiation. High complexity patients with comorbidity, they should see a doctor and a dietitian in real life. But there are also many low complexity patients that just say, shit, I've been diagnosed. What can I do? And then we say, okay, you can just start. Of course, we work on a prescription basis. Our treatment is reimbursed. But, for this group of patients, this works. I want to close with two remarks. This is an example. Of course, we have many clinical data, but this is an example of what it looks in practice. So the first 2 weeks you work, this is where you see the blood sugar level of a typical participant. So he comes in with an early diagnosis of diabetes. So you see his blood sugar level is rather high and very much fluctuating. Together with him in the first 2 weeks, we figure out what his precision diet is. It was just like Spotify playlist, the diets and the meals that work for you. You save them, you make meal plans, your favorite snacks, your favorite workout plans, etc. And after these 2 weeks, you start to build up your routine. You're still in touch with our dietitian. You make sure that you do this every day. And after 2 months of changing your routine, we can say there has been a behavioral change. That's the minimum period to do that. Then you do a new measurement period. And in this case, you can see that it has been the average blood sugar level has been decreased. You go back to your doctor and you say, hey, listen, I don't need any meds right now. And the doctor then says, okay, I see you in a year. Now, while we are working on this treatment, I think it's the last point I want to make here is it's very important to think about consumerization. Healthcare technology is not about digitization. It's not about giving a doctor a Zoom subscription. It's not about having another consult in 2 weeks' time done online. It's not telemedicine. Consumerization is something else. That is that you help people make the right decisions. Our app is used at the point of making food decisions. And you don't do that in a consult. You do that whenever you are in a shop, whenever you're sitting with your partner and ordering food for tonight or for tomorrow. So this is why the concept that we have is currently being translated into in-store shopping. You can scan barcodes and we will say to you, don't take it because it's a risk for your health, or do take it. And that's all based on your personal data. So for now, I propose to leave it up to the panel, because I know that there's a very interesting discussion coming up. I thank you for your attention, and I speak to you later. Thank you very much.
Super. Piet, Hein, thank you very much, and Balazs, for your insightful presentations. I really like the focus on the importance of human centricity and personalization. So look forward to continuing that conversation shortly. So just before we dive into our panel discussion, I'd like to get a quick bit of audience participation. We're going to have a poll, which should pop up on your screen any minute now. We'd like to get your input into what you think is the primary factor defining success in health devices over the next 3 to 5 years. So please do get your votes in. While you do that, I am going to quickly introduce you to this fantastic lineup we have for you this afternoon. So first up, we have Dr. Michel Abdel Malek, who is an anesthesiologist and founder of Delphir, an innovative clinical data platform that unburdens doctors by unleashing data. He's also a PhD candidate in the field of artificial intelligence in pharmacodynamic modeling, and serves as national data lead for the Dutch Association of Anesthesiologists. We have Sam Shames. Sam is COO and co-founder of Ember Labs. Balazs mentioned this a little bit earlier. The Ember Wave is a stylish device that resembles a watch, but it's actually a personal temperature regulation device. And by cooling down important nerve connections on the wearer's wrist, it can affect temperature perception of the entire body. So this system consists of a wristband and a companion mobile app that allows users to personalize, again, their experience with the device. We also have Dr. Janos Penzes. Janos is a trained physician who heads the Global Digital Center of Excellence at Richter, a major European pharmaceutical company. His multifaceted career has spanned various domains within the medical field, ranging from being a practitioner himself through coordinating clinical studies to managing various product and eventually business units. And finally, we have Piet Hein joining, who you heard a little bit from earlier. Piet is an experienced entrepreneur, as you can see, who holds a PhD in physical chemistry. He serves as the CEO of Clear, a Dutch startup that aims to help people living with type 2 diabetes. And Clear has a digital self-help solution that includes that network connected blood glucose monitor and a sophisticated mobile application backed by powerful data processing capabilities. So we have a fantastic lineup in store for you. Without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Balazs. He will discuss the poll results and kick us off with our panel discussion.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, the original plan was that we'll have another presenter today. I didn't want to, take up this much space from the webinar, but I will be also facilitating the panel discussion, but I will try to stay in the background and let our experts shine. I have one slight issue. I don't see the poll results. Sarah, can you? Okay, now I do see it. Yeah, seems like 90% of our participants think that software will be the main driver of the success of a medical/health device in the next 5 years. Well, that's exciting. Honestly, I agree with that result. Basically, that's why we organized the whole webinar. And without spending too much time here, let's just dive into the questions. So basically, I would like to give the space to all our panelists to answer the very same question. Don't be influenced by the results of the panel. Feel free to disagree with it. What do you think will be the main driver of the success of a health product in the next 3 to 5 years? Will it be software or will it be hardware? First, please, Sam.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Sam Shames, co-founder and COO of Ember Labs. I was one of the folks who actually picked hardware, and my thinking is obviously biased by our company, but ultimately for me, it's that, the software's ability to make actions is only as useful as the data that it can get, and that's ultimately limited by hardware. So, whether it's monitoring for health conditions or even taking the smartphone and smartwatches that we wear every day, adding capabilities to them is a enabling factor for the software. So that's why I think hardware will ultimately be more impactful when it comes to the advancement.
That's a great point, Sam. Janos, can you share your views?
Yes, if I am forced to choose, then I would have gone with software as well. Not to say that hardware is not is a weak contender in this. Absolutely, there are huge investments and developments in this, and also just to take a look at the wearable adoption rates. Last year's data from Statista shows us that every 1 in 4 US adults have a wearable, so it's something significant. However, I do agree with Mark Anderson, who says that software is eating the world. I do agree with this, and also maybe even AI is eating software, so it's all about software. But if I'm not forced to choose, then I would give a 50-50 chance.
Okay. Piet, Hein, how do you feel about this? Your solution is both hardware and software, but the hardware is off the shelf while the software is fully yours. How do you feel about this?
Correct. So, hardware is absolutely the enabler. Without hardware, we couldn't do anything. I'm really looking forward to a smartwatch with a glucometer included, which has been announced already for years, but it's not yet available on the market. But from the other end, software is a very important function. Hardware spits out data, and the software helps people to make sense out of it. And especially with our, let's say, poor diabetes patients, they need to make sense out of it. And if you throw the data if you just throw the data to them, then it feels that they are flying in a cockpit of whatever some complicated plane, and the effect will be that they step out, and that's what we don't want. So you get a very nuanced opinion of me, but I would vote for software because that's the real differentiator in activating whatever the hardware can bring.
Okay, let's finish with Michel. You work on a product that will enable practitioners who use the most expensive devices of them all and the most sophisticated hardware. What's your take on this?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. My name is Michel, and I'm an anesthesiologist and also founder of Delphier. And although there will be a strong need for both hardware and software solution in the future, I'm slightly biased towards software. My belief is that software will be the main driver of innovation in healthcare because it has the potential of limitlessly solving bigger and smaller problems in healthcare. And it's because of the space in which software lives. It creates innovators like yourself, much more degrees of freedom to realize solutions where hardware is always limited by the physical dimensions. And software can also be generate extremely tailored experience to users, both medical staff and patients. What has been said about the data, I think it's true that the hardware generates data, but we shouldn't forget that 80% of the data used in healthcare is unstructured, meaning that it's the notes from doctors, the notes from nurses, and everything else which is not structured in as simple table data. And it's software that we need to understand that kind of data. So that's my take on that.
Thank you for all the opinions. Obviously, this was a provocative question, and probably it's not a binary choice. These things work together, but I think it was still interesting to hear all these takes on it. Let's move forward and tackle the boogeyman of every innovative product, user adaptation. In the context of healthcare, we are actually looking at a twofold challenge. It's not sufficient for users to simply adapt the device. Practitioners should also find it valuable to create like this real connected system that I talked about. But let's focus first on the patient's perspective. what are the most important things to focus on to ensure users actually adopt an innovative health or medical device? And when I say adopting, I mean like long-term engagement and realizing long-term value from it, not just purchasing it. Piet, Hein, you have first-hand experience with this. Can you tell us a bit about it in like 2-3 minutes?
Yes, that's the whole complexity, right? In 2 or 3 minutes. There is an approach, and the approach is build it, then sell it 1,000 times, look where the traction and the product market fit is the highest, claim that niche, and then ask these people what do they need to improve the product. That is the process answer. The design answer, I would say, is what you guys all know. That is, take out all the frictions. Think about the user experience in terms of microtransactions. If you build a data company, this is about microtransactions. So you put something in, you put your food in, and you get a score out. That's a microtransaction. And as we all know, UX is a Trojan horse of a data company. So the better your user experience is, the easier people leave their data. And if you're a data company, these are the data that you can do smart things with. And as long as each small transaction yields something for the user, they will continue doing that. So I think that, Balazs, I will stick to that answer.
Okay, that's very insightful, and actually it was surprisingly quick as well. Yeah, obviously I'm a product designer myself, so I will agree with you.
It's good news for you.
Sam, can you tell us a bit about your experience around Emberwave? What drives adoption?
Sure. So for us, it was very similar, which is it started with primary market research and talking to users about their pain points and using that to drive the design of the product. So for example, we heard very, very early on that because our product is a wearable, it needed to be stylish. And we could have the best heating and cooling device in the world that was incredible at helping with hot flashes. But if it was bulky and ugly, no one's going to use it. So that's an example of how it's not just the technical requirements that matter. It really is those user requirements. And you can ultimately only determine those by talking to users. And then it's simplifying. How do you make the interactions as easy as possible? How do you make it so, without reading the instructions, since we know many people don't, someone can take the product out of the box and know exactly how to use it. So I think if you start there and really design with the user in mind, that's going to really increase the probability of success.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Actually, I remember reading the reviews about your product, and indeed, your current one in the market is Emberwave 2. If I'm correct, the first one was like a more bulky rectangular device, and the new one looks like a very stylish. I dare to say has a more feminine and polished look. So you can see how you really learned from all those feedback. Yeah. Okay, let's segue into the next topic. Practitioner and system adaptation. So originally I wanted this question to be all about the practitioners, like how doctors adapt devices. But then during the discussion with the panelists last week, I figured that it's actually a very complex question, and it's not just the practitioners, it's about the whole healthcare system. So when it comes to the practitioners, what are the main challenges? And let's hear first from Michel, as you are fully working on solutions that are focused on doctors.
Yeah, thank you, Balazs. It's very difficult to fit it in 3 minutes, but I'll try it anyway. I think in life, time is the hardest currency, and this is also true in hospital life. And part of the training as a doctor is that you have to prioritize problems and tasks over some others, and you have to bounce and delegate things if necessary. So you have to think on your feet the whole time, and that's because there's basically too much stuff to do. And we have lots of jobs to be done and lots of different workflows, and many of them have different time scales. So I have to do some kind of workflow with a patient, but it can be an hourly workflow, a daily workflow, weekly, quarterly, yearly. So and all these jobs to be done live on different time scales. And the question for innovators is which job to be done are you targeting, and on which level does this job to be done live? And if it's a patient level problem, then create an experience that is focused on the patient level. If it's a daily task, then focus on the experience of the daily task. And understanding this fundamental flow is the first step to success, I think. Secondly, while most efforts have been focused on the patient journey, the experience with the doctors, or what I call the doctor's journey, has been completely overlooked. And the funny thing is that doctors are humans too. So we like to work with things that makes us feel good and makes us feel happy about what we do. And making things more enjoyable to use is as easy as possible, as frictionless as possible, should absolutely be top priority. And integrate things in workflows they understand or contexts they understand. Now let me tell you a story about how superior UX UI can win in medicine. In anesthesia and in intensive care, we use ventilators to deliver oxygen or anesthesia gases to patients. And the device itself hasn't much been changed in the past 30 years. The design is basically the same. Has the development of this product then finished? Well, absolutely not. In the Netherlands, I've noticed for the past 5 years, there has been a shift from one manufacturer to another. And the one manufacturer, the first one was actually the incumbent, the leading manufacturer, market leader. But apparently the number two or the new ones have actually entered the market with superior UX and also additional functionality that takes out work from the doctor. What I mean by that? Well, superior UX UI, that's easy, and a nice interface and not too much clicks. But the addition of, example, advanced algorithms to help doctors to optimize the settings of the ventilators for the patients, that has led to a job to be done that has to be replaced by a computer, and that it was a job to be done that had to be done a couple of times a day, let's say 2 times a shift. Now it's taken over by an algorithm that then does it safely and better than the doctor, perhaps. So it alleviates doctors and actually makes it more frictionless to work with ventilators. Lastly, what I want to share is that we doctors are very resilient people, and we have to be, because we have studied 15 years to get to a certain level of knowledge and expertise to do what we do. But that also means that we're very resistant to, this means that we're very resistant to unfavorable conditions like a hospital. But then again, we're the other side of the coin is that we're also resistant to change and how we work. And that can be frustrating for innovators like yourself. But be very patient with them, because it's just how we've been built. So to recap, deep dive on the workflow of doctors, focus on the superior experience, add functionality that alleviates admin stress, and make it attractive to work with.
Thank you, Michel. And that sounds like a very positive answer to me, because it makes it look like you put in the effort, you understand your customers, and you deliver something that makes their life more effective and easier, and you reap the benefits. Your product will have a larger market share, all these things. Now we will shift to Piet, Hein, who will tell us a bit about the challenges with the system adaptation, and that paints for me a less rosy picture from what I've heard previously. Piet, Hein, can you just very quickly tell us a bit about your struggles with the
Yeah, well, I very much like the angle of the user, which we discussed. I very much like Michel's angle about the doctors, who are humans as well. And then we think that we've built a great product, but in most healthcare solutions, there needs to be a reimbursement as well. And I don't know if doctors are resilient or the system is more resilient. I don't know who wins. But in the Netherlands, I have found that the solution eventually was to tell that we are not an innovation. So while in this call we're all thinking about great innovations, out there in the ecosystem, don't say you're an innovation. That makes them nervous. So now I presented our solution today. We just in the Netherlands we said we're just a regular dietitian. We don't have an office around the corner, but telemedicine is allowed. So we are a digital dietitian, and of course we use a sensor, but dietitians use a scale as well, or other tools. So we don't put the sensor on the invoice. It's in our hourly rate. So what do you think? And then they said, you're just a dietitian. Okay, then we don't see a problem. We have a problem because we are not a dietitian, and we don't fit into that little budgetary hole. that is being created now, but at least we can treat patients. Because if we do all well, we design well for the users, we design well for the doctors, then still nothing happens. It has to be reimbursed or paid by somebody. And so we at least have now a situation where we get prescribed and we treat patients every day. They get better. They don't need medication. We save money, we save costs, we save patient lives, or at least their life quality. And I will keep you posted on what will be the next step, because eventually they will need to adopt us as an innovation, with its specific financing structure as well. And as a closing, Balazs, the thing we need to understand is, of course, that in healthcare reimbursement, there are 3 things reimbursed. The hours of the practitioners, medication, and tools or devices. Data are not reimbursed. So we have an issue in this call.
Well, that's an exciting perspective, and probably the one, you told me previously that you probably spend 70% of your time battling this angle instead of just working on the product. So that's something that entrepreneurs in this space have to be prepared for. Okay, Janos, could you add the angle of, you are leading a larger company's innovation efforts? It's a large pharmaceutical. It's a bit of a different ball game. Can you tell us a bit about system adaptation and practitioner adaptation from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. So as I used to be a doctor, I can totally resonate with the fact that doctors are actually humans too. Now putting on my current hat, what I can say is that even though the dominant state of mind is patient centricity in the pharma industry nowadays, of course, and we have to put patient in the center, we also have to, and I think the industry is already adapting to the notion of multi-stakeholder environments. So what we have to navigate in is really a complex system, an ecosystem of different players, different roles, different needs, different barriers, different motives in this whole system. And I would like to really highlight that I believe that there are at least a combination of at least 3 things that makes things work. And partly these were mentioned, but I think it's not individual siloed excellence in these topics, but rather an amalgamation of these. One is true, genuine market understanding, not just end user understanding, but the whole ecosystem to be understood. And maybe this involves even methodologies when we actually go there and sit with these people to really understand the real life events going on. The second one is really the innovation and product development piece. And the third one is the go-to market. And if all these 3 work together, that's when we become enabled to not just drive adoption or adaptation of our solutions, but to create shared value. And I think this is important because that's the basis where we can create a long-term sustainable model that works, so that our solution is going to work. So in this case, I think what we are trying to achieve with innovation, whether we call it innovation or we dare not to, is that we are trying to put a new piece of puzzle into an already existing picture. So that's why this is really a job that is complex in this way, that we have to adapt to a lot of different players.
Thank you. It's always good to put these things into a framework, and Janos, you seem to be doing that extremely well. The last question goes to Sam. Like, your device is a bit more on the personal well-being side of things, less medical, more focused on making us feel better and making sufferers of hot flashes feel better. Do doctors embrace it? Do they recommend it? And how about insurers? I mean, the US market is such a mess when it comes to reimbursement.
Certainly is. So we have a consumer product, so the end user is actually buying it. And what we've seen has been, on the one hand, there's really no adverse events or side effects from this device, so it's very low risk. So for that reason, we have, some physicians who will say it's worth trying. But for many, it's really all about the body of evidence. So we've done some clinical studies and some pilot studies that have demonstrated effectiveness for hot flashes. So some physicians look at that and say, hey, I'm willing to recommend this to patients. Others say they need more evidence. More often, it actually goes the other way, that it's a patient coming to a OBGYN or a provider saying, hey, I saw this online. What do you think? And usually, again, because it's such a low risk product, we have people who are saying, yeah, absolutely, give it a try.
Are insurers willing to reimburse it?
No, we haven't seen that right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting area as insurers move a bit more into the well-being direction. I see that a bit happening. With this, we basically arrived to the end of our allocated time, but I still have a very exciting question. So I will direct that to Michel and Janos. Can you spare another 5 minutes and talk a bit about AI and large language models, which seems to be all the hype right now? So the generative AI hype is still going very strong, and there is lots of noise. But I hope that almost a whole year has passed since ChatGPT has been introduced, and I hope that year has been enough to, let us gain some perspective on the actual practical impact of the technology within the next few years. So since the release of ChatGPT, there has been lots of discussion about the concept of having this doctor in your pocket, that will just fully change how medical advice is given. But there are lots of concerns about its short-term feasibility. So what is the current reality of using large language models and other generative AI solutions in health and medical devices? What can be realistically achieved, and which use cases can hope to pass regulators? Michel, you are an expert in this topic. Can you talk about it in 2-3 minutes?
Yeah, I'll try. Thank you. Amazing question. I think in short, I think LLM have being large language models have the potential to disrupt healthcare in many, many ways. And they can range from like agents that are assigned to like the smallest kind of data task, like structuring data, to full-fledged assistance for clinical decision support. And I think the answer to your question is what is reality and what will regulatory environment be? I'll try to answer both. From a scientific perspective, I'm an avid follower of the field and also doing research. Lots of papers have been published past year in which LM are given a rather easy or very complex task, and to surprise of many clinicians, including myself, it often works really well. From there, it's actually very easy to see. But then again, is it fully tested? No, absolutely not. We're absolutely not there yet. As I said, I'm currently researching the use of LLM in anesthesiology, and that's specifically a language-based task. And my latest paper is currently under review at the British Journal of Anesthesia. And our conclusion is that LLM are currently not ready for language-based tasks in anesthesiology just yet, but it's very easy to see the potential if you just do more training. I think there are lots of exciting opportunities, but we're not there yet. From a regulatory perspective, the laws and guidelines regarding the implementation of LLM are currently being written, like literally now. And LLM, if used as a tool for doctors, should probably be categorized as a software as a medical device. But the problem is that to apply for such a certificate, data must be provided by the applicant on how these LLM work. And this conflicts with the true nature of LLM because they're inherently black boxy and very difficult to understand the inner workings of LLM, let alone, reproducible results. Having reproducible results from LLM is very challenging. So it would be very interesting to see what the regulatory field would look like the coming year, especially in the requirements of delivering more information and data on how they work.
Thank you, Michel. It seems like it's still very much in the making. Everyone can see the potential, but then 1 year was probably still not enough to gain enough perspective of exactly how this will unfold. Janos, can you please round it up with your views? You are also thinking a lot about the potential of use cases of for LLMs and for generative AI in general.
Yes, definitely. We have some projects. So I would just like to highlight 3 things very shortly. One is that what we can currently discuss is a snapshot of knowledge. meaning that the iterative, fast-paced development in the AI field is so fast that what we talk about today maybe can be totally outdated in 2 weeks' time. That's one thing. The other thing is that many times when we talk about generative AI, we tend to it's the red herring. So it's we are talking about content generation. However, if we take a look at the big picture, and this is, for example, coming from like people like Eric Boyd, the AI head of Microsoft, who said that apart from content generation, we can totally use it in coding in certain aspects, not for healthcare, but maybe in healthcare code writing, but it's code. However, there are two other ones which can be very important. One is semantic search, and the other one is content summarization. And as it was mentioned before, we have huge amount of unstructured data, and we have to make use of this in some way or form. So that is a huge potential. And the third one is a warning because currently I really agree with one notion of the Silicon Valley AI expert, Hungarian guy György Tiles, who calls this era we live in now somewhere between the narrow artificial intelligence and true general artificial intelligence, the era of AGI mongrels. And this kind of derogatory term, I think, must raise our attention and awareness that although these tools can be very powerful and very potent, we humans have to be in control, and we cannot go fast and break things in healthcare.
Thank you very much. Those will be great, great finishing words. Although if we look at what happened at OpenAI during last week, they definitely decided that there is no reason not to go fast. That seems to be the message of the board being removed and the CEO reinstated. I was extremely honored by having our panelists here. This was a very exciting discussion. I think it was also very educative, hopefully not just for me, but for the whole audience. And I would like to thank you for being with us again, and I will hand back the mic to Sarah.
Super. Thank you, Balazs, and thank you to all of our panelists today. So that wraps up our event. As you can see, a very lively discussion, lots of key takeaways for the audience. I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank everyone for joining, our speakers and all the panelists today for sharing all of that knowledge. For any of the questions that we didn't get to during the event, we will be sure to follow up with those after the event, along with a recording of the session. And for those of you who may be interested in continuing the conversation, we're also going to be providing a behavioral design evaluation workshop with our team, so you can assess how you can boost the impact of your digital product. So, and finally, I would like to thank all of our audience and viewers today for joining us all over the world. I hope you enjoyed the session and found it useful, and we hope to see you on the next event very soon. Thank you.